So the Jaguars are without a head coach, which means that they need to go find a head coach. And right now, the NFL is on a trial basis with a new rule that essentially allows you in the final 2 weeks of the NFL regular season to be able to talk to guys from different teams that are currently working over there, offense coordinators, defensive coordinators, whatever you want. Everybody that's kind of employed by these different teams are allowed to interview on I think it's a Zoom basis. So it's a great year to be looking for a head coach because this might be the only year that this is actually allowed to happen. So the Jaguars, there have been 8 names that have come out. 2 guys that are currently unemployed and 6 guys that are currently with their respective teams that the Jaguars have requested interviews with and that they will hopefully meet at some point this week or next week. And in this video, we're going to discuss all 8 candidates, and I'll kind of give you a rating out of 10 stars when it comes to these different guys. So let's get it. So the first thing that comes up, and it looks like he is set to interview with the Jaguars this week, is former Eagles head coach Doug Pederson. Now, I've made a whole entire video on Doug Pederson if you want a full, more in-depth kind of look at this coaching candidate, but he's a former quarterback in the NFL. He was a Eagles coach for 5 straight years. He's a Super Bowl winner. 3 out of 5 years as an Eagles head coach, he made it to the playoffs. So he's had a lot of success for the Philadelphia Eagles. I really like him because he's gone out there and actually done it. He has head coaching experience, won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. He's just been there and done that. And right now the Jaguars need somebody that can kind of have a plan of action to come in here that actually has a resume of doing stuff, because the Jaguars head coaching job right now, it's a major overhaul. It's a major overhaul. So it's going to be fun if we potentially get a new name guy, a first ever head coach. But all that does come with some risks. So with that said, Doug Pederson, he's my favorite candidate, and I give him an 8 out of 10 rating if I were to rate this thing out of 10. Now, the next head coach is also currently unemployed. It is Jim Caldwell. He is 62-50 as a head coach of the Detroit Lions and Indianapolis Colts, 2-4 in the postseason. The thing about Jim Caldwell is he's actually had some pretty good success. Obviously, he has a winning record. He's been a head coach before. He's been around the NFL for a long time. The thing that holds me up on this guy is the fact that he's going to be 67 in just a few months. That's a huge red flag for me. A lot of people were hating on me for Twitter about that, but 67 years old is pretty old. I know there's coaches out there. Pete Carroll, I believe, is 72. Bruce Arians is 69. I think Bill Belichick is also 69 years old, but this is going to be a long, stressful job, and the only coaches that have ever won Super Bowls 67 or older have been coaches that have had Tom Brady at quarterback, and I want a guy that's going to be here for a few years. You know what I mean? And will he be here for the long haul? I don't know. He also has some health issues. As early as 2019, he had to step away from the Dolphins for a little bit due to some health concerns. Apparently, it's kind of back on, but that does scare me a little bit of a way. But if everything is good with Jim Caldwell, health issues, all that aside, I wouldn't mind bringing him in. I actually rate him as a 7 out of 10. He gets a little bit of a bump from me for having former head coaching experience and actually being a good head coach, because there's some coaches on this list that have been out there before as head coaches but haven't had as much success. So Jim Caldwell gets a 7 out of 10 for me. Now, the next guy on this list is former Jaguars quarterback and also Buccaneers offense coordinator Byron Leftwich. Now, this is another guy that I made a whole entire video about, so if you want to go look at that video, go ahead and watch it. It's a full in-depth kind of look at Byron Leftwich, similar to Doug Pederson. But I am honestly not as high on Byron Leftwich as time goes on. Obviously, he's the offensive coordinator of a really good offense. He was the offensive coordinator of a Super Bowl winning team last season, but there are a lot of things that kind of throw me off about him when it comes to maybe he's not the best fit for the Jaguars. Some of those being that he's never actually developed a young quarterback before. He just hasn't really been in the position to do that outside of having Josh Rosen, which Josh Rosen, I don't know if anybody could have really developed him. So he didn't really do that. Also, the style of offense that Byron Leftwich runs would not fit with our current roster. So they would need some major tweaks when it comes to what he would do over here for the Jaguars. And also, Tom Brady is his quarterback. And I have issues on whether or not he's not only second in command, maybe he's third in command. Maybe there's Bruce Arians, Tom Brady, and then Byron Leftwich down here. So I don't know. That kind of throws me off. So for that reason, I have Byron Leftwich as a 5 out of 10 when it comes to this. Would I be mad if we hired him? No, not really. But there's a bunch of red flags on him when it comes to the Jaguars' current situation. And I think he would be much better for himself and his career if he were to be able to land over on a job like the Seattle Seahawks or even the Las Vegas Raiders for the kind of offense that he has and the type of, really his experience in the NFL, as well as he has to really completely flip the script over here for the Jaguars, where over in Seattle and Vegas, it seems like cultures are kind of built over there, and it's a lot easier of a job for a first-year guy over there. Now, the next guy I have is defensive coordinator Todd Bowles. Now, this one is a head scratcher for me. He was a Jets head coach. He's a former head coach, which is obviously good. But the thing about it is he was 26-41. He took over a Jets team that was probably in a better position than the Jaguars. He took over a Rex Ryan team and just didn't do a whole lot with it. Like I said, 26-41 as a head coach. Nothing really impresses me about Todd Bowles. I think he's a guy that's probably just better off sticking to the defense coordinator position. But maybe he'll get another shot somewhere. But I would not like to hire if they went out and got Todd Bowles. He's well respected. Players do respect him. But I would give this one a 3 out of 10 if the Jaguars were to hire him. Now, next guy I have is offense coordinator Kellen Moore for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, this one is really, really intriguing for me. He was a career backup in the NFL, former Boise State quarterback. He's really rapidly shot up the ranks over there in the NFL. In 2018, he served as a QB's coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Then he quickly turned that into an offensive coordinator job where he's been the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys from 2019 to 2021. And the cool thing about this is that a lot of times when a coach gets fired from a team, they bring in a whole new staff. But Jason Garrett got fired. Mike McCarthy, an experienced NFL guy, a very well-respected NFL head coach, kept him as his offensive coordinator, which I think that really says a lot about him. And I love seeing Kellen Moore on the sidelines, the way he, his play sheet works. He's really into the game. And I like the kind of offense that he's built. He's developed Dak Prescott, building a really good offense around him. I love the 2 running back system that they have. The Jaguars have 2 running backs with James Robinson and Travis Etienne, and I love the way that he really runs that offense with both Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Of course, the Jaguars are going to have to get more weapons, but I love the way the offense is run with Kellen Moore, and I just have this feeling that he is much like a Sean McVay. If you look around at the different trends in the NFL, the big thing to do that teams are having a lot of success at is hiring the young guys, whether it be McVay or Shanahan or Matt LaFleur. A lot of the younger guys are really working out for their teams, and maybe that's a good trend to follow. Although with Kellen Moore, I don't know if this is the best landing spot for him because we have Trent Baalke in the building, and there's obviously a generation gap there, and I don't know if he is going to feel like kind of beaten down by Trent Baalke. I really hope something happens where he's not going to be the GM, but as it happens, maybe it's not the best place for him. Maybe that's going to be the case with a lot of these guys. I don't know why we're keeping Trent Baalke, but hey, that's a discussion for another time. But Kellen Moore, I really like him. I would probably give this one an 8 out of 10. I'll make a video on this guy soon, but I really do like Kellen Moore. Now, next guy is also a former head coach. This one is Dan Quinn. A very meh kind of thing. He's 46-42 as an NFL head coach, so he has a pretty good record. His worst season as a head coach, he went 7-9, so there's some good stuff there. He did go to the Super Bowl He is the holder. He was the head coach of the infamous 28-3 travesty over there for the Atlanta Falcons. But, he just never really seemed to be able to put the Atlanta Falcons over the top. They were always middling around that 500 range, which, hey, as Jaguar fans, we would probably take in a hurry. But I don't know if a defensive guy is the right move for the Jaguars. I don't mind a defensive guy, but maybe Dan Quinn in general, I don't know about him. He's another guy that, hey, players do respect. So there's that. I think that really weighs in heavily with what the Jaguars need because obviously, Urban Meyer lets a lot of stink and there's still Trent Baalke here, but, whatever. So Dan Quinn, I would put this one as a 5 out of 10. I put him as a little bit of the notch over a guy like Todd Bowles just because he's had more winning type of seasons than Todd Bowles, and obviously he has a Super Bowl. But both these hires, I wouldn't be too fond of. Now, another guy we have is Colts defensive coordinator Pat Eberflus. I don't really know a lot about this guy. I'll be honest with you. His name kind of came out of nowhere. He's been a linebackers coach in the NFL ever since 2009, and he's been the Colts defensive coordinator since 2018. This one's an interesting one because when Josh McDaniels was hired on as the head coach for the Colts, he actually brought in Matt Eberflus. And then once Josh McDaniels kind of flipped and went back to New England, Frank Reich kept him over there. And he's been credited for really turning around the Colts defense. Colts have had a really good defense with him. They've been aggressive. They've been hard-nosed. They've been a lot of different stuff. And Matt Eberflus has his defense ranked in the top 10, of a lot of different categories. And they've had some pretty good defenses. So Matt Eberflus, I need to look a little bit more into this one. Maybe I'll bring on a Colts guy to help me kind of look at Matt Eberflus a little bit better. But I would probably give this one a 5 out of 10. Obviously, a big thing is he's a defensive guy, and I really want to do what's best for Trevor Lawrence. Matt Eberflus comes with a big asterisk because, look, if you hire Matt Eberflus, that's part one. Part two is going to be, okay, what offense coordinator are you going to bring in here? What is your plan for the offense? How are you going to get this offense rolling? You know what I mean? Kind of like when the Jets hired on Robert Saleh. They knew that, hey, like I'm going to bring over, LaFleur over here. He was with the 49ers. I'm going to bring over this offense. This is my game plan for this offense. It needs to be something similar, with a Matt Eberflus where they had to figure out what kind of offense they want to run. And Matt Eberflus might be a good one. For now, I'm going to rank it as a 5 out of 10 just because I need to do a little bit more research on this guy. Now, last but not least is a former Jaguars offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. He's a current Packers offensive coordinator doing some awesome things over there for the Packers. Grass is always greener when you leave Jacksonville. Ask Nathaniel Hackett, ask Jalen Ramsey, ask Mercedes Lewis that. But obviously, he's been with the Jaguars organization for some time. From 2015 to 2016 under Gus Bradley, he was a quarterbacks coach. When Doug Marrone got promoted to head coach, Nate Hackett stayed as the offensive coordinator from 2017 to 2018, and I really did like him. He was a really good offensive coordinator. I mean, you think back at the 2017 run that we had, we got to the AFC Championship game, and our offense was comprised of Blake Bortles, Leonard Fournette. Our wide receivers were like Allen Hurns, Dede Westbrook, like Keelan Cole, like Jadon Mickens. Like, we just had a group of guys there, and he was able to keep that offense running, and he was able to prevent Blake Bortles from throwing interceptions. I mean, it was big time for him. So Nathaniel Hackett, when you look back at the recent history of Jaguars offensive coordinators, that guy really stands out when you say, you know what, we haven't had the best offenses, but this guy did a pretty good job for the cards that he was given. I'm still not huge on the hiring. Obviously, he's a little bit of a, quirky guy. He's a funny guy. But when it comes to this position, I think we can swing a little bit higher to get maybe a little bit better of a guy in here. I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. Maybe he's learned a lot of stuff with the Packers, but man, sometimes, with guys like Byron Leftwich or Nate Hackett, I get scared of the fact that look what their offensives have, man. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers, like Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, just these offenses are stacked, and it makes me a little bit worried sometimes. But hey, like, you're not going to hire on a guy that, is with a crappy team a lot of times. So, we'll kind of see. We'll kind of see. So the Jaguars are getting this thing off and running. 8 different coaches that they are linked to potentially be interviewing. So it's going to be exciting as more of this stuff leaks out. Some interesting names that were left off were Brian Dable, the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Interesting, he's not getting one. Eric Bieniemy, obviously, I don't know if he's going to miss this coaching turnaround. I don't know. It's weird with Eric Bieniemy. It's just maybe he didn't interview well. Maybe he just doesn't make a great impression on people. I don't know, but he was kind of left off of this one. And also Josh McDaniels, I don't know if they put out a word to maybe bring him in, but these are a list of names as of Tuesday, December 28th. So we'll see as the weeks go along, what more names kind of come out. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this list. Should be an exciting offseason. Obviously, Urban Meyer's out of here. We'll see with Trent Baalke. We still haven't got official word from Shad Khan that he's going to stay, but I know us little people on Twitter are doing what we can to get him out of there, and hopefully Shad Khan can read a room and, not retain this guy, but we'll just have to see. With all that said, thank you guys so much for watching the video and keeping this as your number one spot for Jaguars coverage here on YouTube. I really do enjoy doing it. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.